Friday night season opener could come down to one thing, and that thing could be turnovers.
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. I'm your host, Zach Blackerby, and thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. Bonus edition of the show with the Ben Taylor of Auburn Opelika this morning. He's the man over at the Auburn Network family of stations. Turnovers. Ben, it's been something that Hugh Freeze was asked about earlier in the week, and it's been something that Auburn fans have talked about really since Hugh Freeze got here, and not in a good way. And when you look at what Auburn did last year, when you talk about just where they stood in the conference and in all of college football, but specifically in the SEC, they were last in the SEC in turnover margin with minus 0.75 turnovers per game as far as what they're giving up. So almost losing the turnover battle by a full turnover every single game. That's not great. That's not great. And, the Big 12 as a whole, not really too active one way or the other in forcing turnovers or kind of benefiting from that. Baylor, their margin was plus 0.46, so they were okay. They won the turnover battle more than they lost it. But that to me is it. And Hugh Freeze talked about Jackson Arnold's decision-making and driving home the importance of drives need to end in a kick, whether you're punting it, kicking a point after, or a field goal. And to me, that could make or break this.
Yeah, I told you when we were talking about some of the things, I said, what are we not being told? Because even last year, leading into the season, Hugh talked about it, like in some of the pressers. Hey, we got to cut down on putting the ball on the ground. We got to cut down on throwing it to guys that are on the defense instead of throwing it to our offensive guys. We're not hearing that this year. So I don't know if part of that is because it's not happening, or part of it is because it's such a hot topic that maybe we're not being told because we're not there all practice. I don't know. Or that's something that Jackson Arnold's not really known for. And maybe you and I were talking, Damari, if he gets the nod at the one, which he is back at the running back room. I mean, he only had a couple of fumbles last year, but still they came at inopportune times. So maybe he's holding the football better, or because he's been in a yellow jersey and not touched, maybe he hasn't been popped enough to see if he's going to turn it over yet or not. So, but even the young guys, we're not hearing of Mapson putting the ball on the ground after because he has been taking licks. So it's just, that's not been a topic of discussion where Hugh has said, or our offensive coaches have said, we got to do a better job of protecting the football. We haven't heard that comment come out. So that tends to lead me into.
He talked about his presser on Monday. He talked about like the importance of, teaching over and over and over again that the ball is the most important thing. And, I'm sure he said that last year too, right? And it was still an issue.
Yeah, but he talked about it last year like being an issue. He spoke about it this year being more of we got to reiterate it. Does that make sense? Like,
sure.
It's almost like I took it as last year. Hindsight's 50-50 when you look back on it, as Pat Dye said.
Sure.
And so you look back on it and you think, oh, well, Peyton Thorne was turning the ball over because you talked about in practice how he was turning it over. And this year it's not. Hugh's never been one to shy away from calling a player out or at least using their name. And he hasn't said our quarterbacks have got to do a better job of holding the ball. Instead, he said we're having to reiterate how important it is to protect the football. And I don't know. It may be semantics, but I'm more positive about that going into this year than looking back on. I should have been a little more worried going into last year after what we saw. And so, with like you talked about, Big 12 not really forcing a lot and Baylor not really forcing a lot. Auburn protects the football and makes their field goals when needed, puts people in deep territory as far as punting situations are concerned, and gets off the field in third down. I just think they're going to be a whole lot more successful in closer games throughout the season than what we were last year.
Yeah, Baylor gained 7 fumbles last year. They had 14 interceptions, just for comparison. Auburn gained 5 fumbles and 8 interceptions. But then on the flip side, they lost 9 fumbles, which is ridiculously way too high in my opinion, They threw 13 interceptions. So not the ratio that you want. And like you're in the bottom of the SEC a year ago with that stat. And then it's like, okay, can it get much worse than a year ago when you've kind of revamped this offense? I don't think it's too much to say. Like, even if Auburn was in the middle of the pack in turnover stats, you win maybe 3 more games a year ago.
No, and that, I said that all of it also comes at the timing of the turnover. If Auburn is up 30 and they've got the 3s and 4s in, and a back puts the ball on the ground or a third string quarterback throws an interception, I don't take that nearly into account as much as a tighter game with Jackson Arnold throwing an interception in the red zone, or when they're backed up and making a dumb decision on an out or something where it's clearly covered and he should have thrown it away, and you give the ball to the offense on a short field. So, if those 9 that you were talking about, those 9 fumbles lost, if that's mop up duty, I don't care. I don't care about 9 fumbles, but it seemed like every one of those came on a drive killer or giving the ball to the opposing offense on a short field to allow them to at least be in field goal position, if not score a touchdown on and put your defense in a bad position. So, shore it up and make a few more field goals. And as you said, 3 losses from last year turn into wins this year, and that puts you over that hump of that quote unquote 7.5 that Vegas still has Auburn at.
Yeah. Obviously, it's going to be important for Friday. So what does this mean for Friday night? That's next, right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show brought to you by our friends at Monarch Money. Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks or properties, investment accounts. And when you don't have the full picture, that's when you end up leaving money on the table. And so Monarch Money is so important. It's your all-in-one personal finance tool that helps bring your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface. You could be on your browser or your phone. My favorite thing about Monarch Money is like you don't have to have multiple financial apps. You can have your budgeting app and your investing app all in one. So don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONCollege. Ben Taylor, the host of Auburn Opelika This Morning on News Talk WANI, part of the Auburn Network family of stations, hanging out with us today. So what does this turnover discussion mean, and how can it be applied for Friday's game? I don't think Auburn has to win the turnover battle to win on Friday, but if you told me Auburn does win the turnover battle on Friday, I think Auburn wins by more than a score.
I think Auburn wins the turnover battle on Friday. I think that this defense is good enough that with Baylor loving to put the ball in the air, that our defensive backs are going to have some opportunities. Whether they're able to capitalize on those or not, it's up to them. I think when you start talking about the edges coming around and maybe causing some havoc, and maybe a ball get loose or two out of the quarterback's hands, or able to, get a running back from behind or something, and that way it knocks the ball out from behind, because that's usually when you see those type fumbles take place. So I like Auburn's a bit, and it goes back to what you just talked about, the history of Baylor last year. They're just not known for taking the ball away a lot. So I think if Auburn loses turnovers, I think it's due to Auburn's problem. It's Auburn's problem. It's not because of Baylor. It's because of getting loose with the ball or making a poor decision in coverage or something of that nature. Whereas I think Auburn can actually force some turnovers on Baylor, especially putting them in a bad position. We've bragged, Zach, about how Jackson Arnold has been going at some of the best defensive backs in the country. Well, why not turn that around? I mean,
right.
I still have a lot of positives about Jackson Arnold. They've been going against a pretty good quarterback who hasn't been turning the ball over in practice to them, according to the coaching staff. So they now, as we talked about the game slowing down for Jackson Arnold when it comes Friday night because of the defensive backs he's faced, it could slow down for the defensive backs because of the quarterback play that they faced in practice day in and day out. So some of those windows that may look wide open when you're going against a Cam Coleman or a Perry Thompson, or Eric Singleton, maybe those windows are a lot tighter now that you're going against guys that aren't necessarily as good as those three.
Yeah. Hugh Freeze really talked up Baylor, which of course, like, what is he going to do? What did you think of the comment where he's like, man,
I would love for him to come out and say they suck. Like they're really bad.
well, I think you can do that by just not talking about them. Right.
Right.
I think that's kind of what that means.
Yeah.
Is when you don't really spend a whole lot of time. I mean, he highlighted several individual players for Baylor. And then I really liked the comment where he was like, man, I almost need to stop watching tape because the more I watch them, like the better they get. Right. Which, you learn more and more about what they do well. Which is probably like the mindset you need to have, right? Like you need to think the Baylor's going to be, one of the toughest opponents on your schedule, which I don't think that they are, but it is arguably the most important game. I've said it all offseason. Like this is the most important game of the season because if you win it, cool, that's great. And it'll be fun. And it might be some relief, but it's just, if you lose on Friday, it's just, it could be so potentially devastating as far as what it could lead to. Can you lose on Friday and still accomplish some things this season? Yes,
sure,
you can. Yeah. But the path gets way steeper. That uphill battle becomes, instead of an uphill battle, it's like an up mountain battle. I mean, it would be a tremendous difference as far as, the level of adversity and obstacles that are in front of you. So, I love that approach. It seems like they're ready, but of course, Dave Aranda and the Baylor side are doing the exact same thing.
Well, and coming from Aranda, and we've seen the history of him. I mean, I think he's going to throw some things at Auburn's offense that may confuse them a little bit, and that's why I say protect the football. Take your 3.5, 4 yards in a cloud of dust. Go down. Don't put the ball on the ground. And that way you live to fight another day. So because he's going to have them prepared to try to confuse Jackson Arnold. He's going to have them prepared to try to, drop some linebackers when they probably shouldn't drop linebackers and make him throw into some coverages that he may not have seen already. So trust me, he's done his homework as far as defensively. So that's why I think it's so important that Auburn just take care of the football. And if it's not there, it's okay to throw it 3 rows up and live to have another day just to keep from giving it to the other team.
Yeah, or just throw it up to Cam Coleman, whatever.
Well, I said that too. I was like, Cam's down there somewhere. It's just as good as a punt. Just throw it down. And now that we've learned that Perry Thompson runs 21 plus miles an hour, just send him down the sideline. Just throw it up.
Like, why not? Like, if the offense, just starts sputtering, just give him a shot.
Well, why not? From what I've read online, our receiving crew is just not as good as Baylor. So I'm not real sure that we've got the studs to be able to do that. So we shall see.
Yeah, the Baylor doesn't have a lot of fans on social media, but the ones that they have are very loud, very anonymous, and very cocky.
And I think their team is very good. Also, I do have to ask you this because this was released not too long ago. Do you have an issue with RG3 calling the game on television?
No.
Conflict of interest as a former quarterback of the Baylor Bears?
Nah.
I do and I don't. I do just because knowing his personality, he's going to treat him as my Baylor Bears, but you got to get somebody. Somebody's got to be in the booth. So
I don't have an issue with it.
He's got the experience. So I don't
have an issue with it. I mean, we have basketball games where like Charles Barkley takes over. Yeah. Like,
and we don't have an issue when that happens, He's a big Auburn homer as you can imagine.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, Cole's on the sideline doing Auburn games from time to time. And
and like the only time I think Cole is probably more professional than, others. Like the only time, like, I think you would have really been able to tell that Cole was an Auburn guy if you had no clue was when he was on the crew with, against A&M when Cadillac beat A&M a few years ago.
Yeah.
That's really the only time I felt like, oh, okay, there's Cole, the Auburn guy. That's the only time I've really been able to tell with him. But you're right. He does our games all the time, for sure.
Well, and Fromm does Georgia games all the time, and nobody says a word about that. I mean, I think he even did the Auburn-Georgia game a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I don't.
Or Murray. Aaron Murray. I'm sorry.
ESPN,
Aaron Murray.
Like, you don't care about objectivity anymore. You care about product and entertainment. It's like most of the people watching Friday night aren't Auburn or Baylor fans.
Right.
And so, like, what's the most entertaining product you could put out there? the best player in Baylor history, calling the game. Like,
comes
I
home
get
to
it.
help call the game.
I get it.
Yeah.
Like, would I have picked that? I don't know, but I have no issue with it whatsoever. I like RG3. Yeah. I like RG3 a lot. So we'll see. We'll see
about his
how how pro Baylor he is. And sometimes like those guys try to go like the other direction. I mean, we've seen that with McElroy, I think is a good example where like he tries to go like, I'm not a Bama guy, and like he goes all the way the other way to like almost like push Bama down and like bring up other people. Like we've seen that too.
Oh yeah.
So
I mean, he's trying to get Nick Saban out of retirement. He's trying to get Nick Saban out of retirement. So clearly he's
I mean, he like that was SEC Media Days. Like, okay, that's what we're doing this week. Great. It was awesome. Ben Taylor, how can people check out everything you've got going on?
AUnetwork.com, easiest way to find me. Click on the WANI logo, and we would love to have you. We do sports each and every morning just after 7 a.m.
Please like the video. Please subscribe. We'll see you next time. This has been Locked on Auburn.